Now, storytellers save and retell stories to teach the values of their society. And we are using story in much that same way tonight. Now, it was the Seneca people who lived here long before any European people moved into the region. Now, to begin our tale, let's hear of the Seneca people and the forming of the Iroquois Confederation. And that will be told by, guess which one? Alex.
I'm going to try not to use the mic. Just raise your hand in the back or get my attention. If you need me to use the mic, I'll go and use the microphone. But long ago, the nations that inhabit this land were in constant warfare, one against the other. They engaged in cannibalism, witchcraft, and other atrocities. Farming and settlement was almost impossible due to constant revenge killings, pitting one clan and one family against another, and one nation against their neighbor. At this time, among the Wyandot people, a young woman, a teenager, who never laid with a man, was with child, and her grandmother had a vision. She did not believe her daughter. The vision revealed that the child she was carrying would bring peace, but would also bring downfall of his people, the Wyandot, what we call the Huron. And time came that she gave birth, and the grandmother's vision was so acute, so vivid, that the grandmother convinced her granddaughter that to save their people, they must kill the child. The child they named Decanduida. It was winter across Lake Erie. They took the child, Decanduida, to a swift-moving stream. They drowned him in the stream and left him there. The next morning, they woke up to a baby laughing. He was rolled up in the hides between them. They did this three times, and each time the same result. Decanduida was laughing in the morning, rolled up warm in bed between them in his hides. The grandmother had a vision that he was sent by the Creator to bring peace to the land. They were never comfortable with him. He was picked on and ridiculed among his peers and not accepted. When all the other young men, the young boys of the Wyandot, were engaging in war games and violent sports like lacrosse, he was always off in the woods meditating or watching nature. He never participated in the violent games common to his people. He also was called broken tongue. He had a problem with his speech. He was hard to understand. As he matured, he became known for great wisdom, until one day he started carving a great canoe. But this wasn't your average dugout out of wood. This was out of solid granite, stone canoe. He started in the spring of one year, and everyone was ridiculing him. This is going to be the death of you. How can you do something so foolish? You cannot make a canoe out of stone. Then he told his grandmother that he would not die before his time or depart before he was ready, that he'd choose when he left this earth. and that this was his mission, to bring peace to the warring tribes, to the people we call the Iroquois across the Great Water. So on his 18th birthday, he got middle of winter, he got in the canoe and canoed across Lake Erie to this land here. And he was greeted by Seneca gentlemen. He told the message, and they received him. And they said, to win over our people, you have to go and speak to this woman. She's the leader of our clan. She lost her husband in battle, and she's so distraught that she invites young men in and sits them down to dinner and feeds them a lavish dinner of stewed meat and cornmeal mush and as much food as they could eat. Then she puts them to bed, and they never wake up in the morning. If you can go and convince her of peace, we will join you and we'll spread your message. So he went to this woman's house. It was the bark longhouses we're familiar with. But it was run down because no man to maintain it. No one to help her. And they sat down with her and telling his story and how he was going to bring an end to the violence. He was going to bring peace to the people. Going to stop brother fighting brother, clan fighting clan, and bring peace. The other men with him would not eat. He ate his first bowl, then he asked for more. Then he ate another and another. And they talked all the way into the morning. To her astonishment, he did not die. And she confessed that she was poisoning men and killing men, and told Tecanduida that she had tried to take his life too, and that she wanted to accept the peace, the great law, the great peace he was spreading, and take it to her people, the Seneca. Tecanduida gave her the name Chichinjanse, or Mother of the Nations. She was the first clan mother, the first woman to select chiefs for the Haudenosaunee, for the Iroquois Confederacy, for the council. And without her aid, they could not have formed the Great League of Peace. She advised him that the next person that he had to go see was an Onondaga. He was a great man, Hiawatha. We know him as Hiawatha. But Hiawatha lost 4 daughters and his wife to another chief of his nation, Todd Aho, a very wicked man. Hiawatha was a good man at heart. He believed in peace, and he stood up against the evil man, Todd Aho, a sorcerer, a fierce man who had many warriors to do his bidding and killed all of his adversaries. Since Hiawatha actually had the nerve to stand up against Todd Aho had his wife and 4 daughters brutally murdered in front of him. At this, Hiawatha was so distraught, he turned inward and became a vicious person, living off on the outskirts in the woods where no one ever went. When he came upon a traveler, he brutally killed him and dragged him back to his lodge and cut him up and cook him in a pot and eat him. He practiced cannibalism. Any goodness was all but extinguished in his heart. On his journey, De Conduita came upon his lodge, climbed up on top of his lodge, and looked in down the smoke hole at him, and saw his cannibal pot, and saw Hiawatha dragging his latest victim across the ground and into the lodge, and started cutting him up, putting his heart first into the pot, because that is the best portion, the heart. And when he went to put the heart in the pot, he saw the most beautiful face, most peaceful, serene face in the water. Thinking it was his, he had a complete change of heart. How could someone so beautiful do such things? And he completely repented of his ways and turned back to the road of peace. Seeing this, De Conduita lowered himself down through the smoke hole and shared his plan of peace, his plan for a council of chiefs coming together under one longhouse with a great law to bring peace to the land. And Hiawatha became De Conduita's spokesman because of De Conduita's inability to speak clearly. Hiawatha spoke for him and took the message village to village with De Conduita preaching the great law, the great peace. 4 nations were brought under the great peace: the Seneca, the Mohawk, the Oneida, and the Cayuga. Only one nation remained: the Onondaga, Hiawatha's own people. They were last because of their fierce chief, Todd Aho. Todd Aho was a fierce man, killed all of his adversaries, practiced sorcery and poisoning, murder. Very, very wicked man. He was so wicked, he had snakes in his hair, serpents, horrible countenance, a scary man to look upon, crooked back, hunched appearance. De Conduita went alone to Todd Aho and sat down with him for many nights and convinced him to come under the great law of peace. And he was convinced with a few conditions. Todd Aho was given the title of Chief of the Great Peace, Chief of the Haudenosaunee, the Iroquois Confederacy. To this very day, the Chief of the Confederacy is known by the title Todd Aho, and is always from the Onondaga Snipe clan. The other concession was that the Onondaga would have veto power, that nothing could be decided without the consent of Todd Aho. De Conduita granted this, but he granted this because the great law, the great peace, was built on consensus. All the chiefs would have to agree to a decree for it to stand. Everyone got a voice, everyone was heard, and everyone granted consent. So Todd Aho was granted power of veto. But all the chiefs had that power due to the great law being based on consent. And at the conclusion of Hiawatha's and De Conduita's journey, they went under a tree, the tree with the long needles, we call the white pine. They dug under the tree And they took the war clubs and other instruments of war and laid them to rest under the tree. And they recited all the articles of the Confederate Council of the Haudenosaunee, of the Iroquois Confederacy, and had the first council fire at Onondaga Council. And on top of the tree stood the mighty eagle, watching over the great law and protecting the Confederacy, and protecting under them all people that would come under the great law, would come under the articles. And to all those who rejected the peace, they were dealt a hard hand and put under submission by force. And this is what happened to the Wyandot, fulfilling Decanuida's grandmother's prophecy that he'd bring about the downfall of his own people. The Wyandot would not accept the peace. At the age of 33, at the completion of the Confederacy, Decanuida got back in his stone canoe, gave several prophecies yet to be fulfilled, and returned to the north, never to be seen again. Aho.